Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. We either learn from others or others learn from us. The former is able to help us become a better, faster you. Follow me weekly as I dig up stories like a true anthropologist would on one of the three series called Guest Conversations, Book Applications, or My Small Talk Explorations. I'm your host, Shiva Danshaker, and let's talk. Welcome back, friends. So in today's quick episode, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome a little bit. So I did a bunch of research on this, and imposter syndrome is a term coined by Pauline Clance in her 1978 paper where she observed imposter syndrome in high-achieving women. However, now we know men do experience this too, but it's interesting though because initially it was believed that only women would experience imposter syndrome. And, relating this back to, our modern contemporary times, I've heard Jessica Alba on Jay Shetty's podcast talk about how she feels imposter syndrome all the time. And many other people, successful people in their fields feel the same way, from Michelle Obama to Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg. They've both admitted to it as well. So it got me thinking. Personally, I think imposter syndrome has some to do with the delusion we create in our own heads of us holding ourselves to some very high standard, and or where we exude this fear that others more experienced than us are going to call us out on it. So the predominantly negative and critical analysis of oneself is brought into light by clinical psychology research by Bravada and others in 2019. So we do see that there is a very negative connotation to imposter syndrome. However, in an episode coming soon with Priscilla Shelp, she described how imposter syndrome could actually be considered a healthy fear. And I thought that was an interesting take on it because she was mentioning things like how the fact that you even experience this fear means you're outside your comfort zone, and anything outside of its comfort zone is worthwhile if you can get over that and keep growing, right? So there's a lot of papers today that propose that we should start calling it imposter phenomenon, not imposter syndrome, because syndrome implies that there's some sort of medical diagnosis, while it's more of a purely psychological barrier and that dichotomy between self-concept and self-worth. At least that's what I think. So like I mentioned earlier on my two conceptions of why imposter syndrome exists, there is supporting evidence by Feenstra and others in a 2020 paper that suggests that there is a psychological response to dysfunctional context in one's life. So what this means is, the fear of judgment from your peers, your family, friends, coworkers, etc. And I think this could also be a problem of internalization between how you feel and how you present yourself. And it's actually very interesting because there's also studies and people have talked about how this misconception of your self-concept and self-worth can create problems like depression if prolonged, because your body becomes tired of this facade that you placed in this world and possibly on media or such, and then you just keep dealing with everything until you give up. So nothing seems to motivate, drive, or excite you because your body is exhausted by the barrier your mind upheld. And it was very interesting. I'm trying to think of who mentioned this idea. Okay. It's not coming to my mind, but someone did mention this and I thought it was really interesting. Is they were saying we should look at depressed like deep rest. So depressed is deep rest, meaning your body needs rest. You need to rest and recover because this facade, this idea, this thing you're trying to uphold has really taken a toll on you. Going into a little bit of research I did on, steps to either, diminish or get rid of this imposter syndrome, the American Psychology Association recommends 5 things: talking to mentors, recognizing your expertise, realizing nobody's perfect, changing the way you think, and talking to someone who can help. Personally, I believe these are all very vague and almost somewhat similar. Let me give you 3 pieces of advice that I thought, after compiling all the information, thinking about it, and consolidating my thoughts, this is what I believe would be very helpful for you if you experience this or may experience this in the future. So the first thing is talking to someone. I believe talking to someone can very much help you consolidate your own thoughts because sometimes we're not used to listening to our own thoughts when we're alone. We like to escape. We're in a very prominent escapism society, right? So, however, I have seen studies show that for men, oftentimes talking isn't enough. So often it can even make you more aggravated. So research suggests that men should also exert some level of physical activity in addition to or replacement of talking. That doesn't mean women should not. It just means that the research showed that men tended to get even more agitated after talking on average. So, what I think is, this will calm you down, this will clear your mind, getting rid of some physical exertion, as well as, talking about it or clearing your thoughts, I think is a good way to go for men and women. Two, a unique way to look at this is a friend sent me this quote and I thought it was very interesting. Think of it as everyone is an imposter and you want in on the scam. Personally, I might not use this one, but it is a very interesting way to look at what's happening, right? If we all feel like we're imposters, then it's technically like everyone is an imposter and we're all just kind of scamming our way through. It's almost like the fake it till you make it thing, and you want in on it. So if that helps you, then you should think of it that way. And thirdly, I think you should recognize your strengths in the matter that you feel like you're an imposter in, and then understand that you can't grow unless you're confident in trying your best. And, you can't try your best if you feel fake about what you're doing and who you are. And I personally think, trying your best isn't enough. You want to shoot to be the best. That's how you always improve. That's how you're always doing better. But in the context of imposter syndrome, I think you should judge it on trying your best. Because if you're not recognizing your strengths and being confident that you put the best ability you can into this, then you're not going to be doing your best if you're not trying your best. So that was just a little bit of my thoughts on this whole idea of imposter syndrome. If you like these kind of episodes or you want to see some other advice or you have any other pointers, feel free to leave me a topic idea in the Q&A section if you're in Spotify, or a DM in social media, or my email. It's also in the podcast description. So anyways, I appreciate all the support and the love from you guys, and I love to see this community. It's slowly growing but surely, and I'm very excited for the future episodes to come and the future guest episodes. And remember, guys, you either learn from or you're learned from.